Good morning.
Good morning.
I created a practice and I created an acronym out of the bow tie because what I see in research is that people are really challenged of how to do just that. How many of you all go in public spaces and you don't talk to anyone? No one talks to you. And you're in a public space with all these other humans, but no one speaks. I mean, I was on the airport, we're in the immigration line, customs, and no one talks to anyone. It's like fascinating human behavior. I mean, it's a cause for that, but that's another conference. But the point I want to tell you all is that it's been a challenge. And so what I've seen is people are very challenged with talking to individuals that they may not know, especially when they have different opinions or they disagree. And so what I did was I created an acronym, and these are what I call is the ground rules for today's conversation. And I share this acronym with third graders all the way to Harvard PhDs. So if you would like to adopt it, it's up to you, but these are our rules. The first letter of bow tie, in any conversation, you need to be mentally present. Okay, this is not rocket science, but how many of you all know you can be mentally present, visibly present, but mentally absent? Mm-hmm. Okay, trust me. I've been a Rotarian for 11 years. And so a lot, physically present, mentally absent. So I asked that as you continue to have these challenging conversations, rule number one is be mentally present. And that takes some work, believe it or not. The next letter of bow tie is what? The letter what? Want to make sure, okay, I'm from the South of the United States. So in the South, we do a lot of call and response, especially in the church. And if we don't hear a response, that means the pastor will continue talking longer. Okay? So the next letter of bow tie is what? Oh. Let me catch on. All right, O. O stands for openness. What this stands for is that as you come into these conversations, they're very challenging. I ask that you come with an open mind and an open heart. So many people come into conversations ready to influence and persuade, and they're closed off. And they only want to hear what they wish to hear. I ask that you have an open mind and an open heart. The next letter of bow tie is the letter what?
W.
W. W stands for willingness. Willing to share your own perspective and own your own truth. So many individuals also, I would tell you, I believe everyone in here has a story. But it's up to you to share it. Also, I tell you, in these type of conversations, use I statements. Don't hide behind the we or speak for other individuals. Use I statements in these conversations. Be willing to be vulnerable. Be willing to own your mistakes. Be willing to contribute to the narrative. Be willing to offer grace and space. The next letter, which you're going to say T, but I will tell you, the next phenomenon of this whole situation around bow tie, which people say the most challenging part of this necktie is usually this knot in the middle. People really tell me, oh, I can't take, how do you get the knot door? Do we have any bow tie wearers in here? Okay, I'm gonna say, I thought I've seen a couple bow ties in Canada, but not really. But bow ties, some people tell me this is the challenging part of making this whole piece work. But I would tell you this is usually the most challenging part of a conversation, especially about D&I. How do you tie it together? How do you lead the conversation better than you came in? How do you activate advocacy and action? And my friends today, that is the bow tie. That's the bow tie philosophy. That's the bow tie practice. I ask that you, it's very simple. Be present, be open, be willing, but most importantly, think about what you can take away for your own life to make it practical for you. Is that okay? Mm-hmm. So if you agree, on the count of three, I want you to say the word bow tie. 1, 2, 3.
Bow tie.
1, 2, 3.
Bow tie.
Last but not least, 1, 2, 3.
Bow tie.
Okay, now we can have a bow tie conversation. So now about our bow tie. This is where we're going to have a bow tie. It's a conversation. I want to make sure because it's been a lot of talks and conversation about D&I, DEI in the last 5 to 7 years. Of course, diversity is not new to Canada. It's not a new phenomenon, but it's now at the forefront. It's at the forefront of a lot of companies and communities and institutions. And so I have understood that I can't assume that everyone show up to these words the same. So I want to make sure I level set first. do DNI 101, tell you how I show up to these words, and I'm giving you practice, because when you go back to your clubs and you start having this conversation, please do not assume that when you say these terminology, diversity, equity, and inclusion, everyone believes the same way you believe of what that word may mean. So I want to make sure I level set. So we're going to do DNI 101. I'm going to talk to you about a little things that we've been doing with Rotary Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force. Your very own Valerie is, of course, on the task force with me for Rotary International. I'm going to give you a snapshot of some of the things that we have discovered throughout our research. And then, most importantly, because we're people of action, I want to share some tactics and practical tips for you to take back to your community. And then what I love the best is opening it up for Q&A, and we're just going to have a good time. Is that okay? All right, let's get to it. All right, so the first thing, what is diversity, Dr. Todd? Thank you for asking. Diversity to me is twofold. This is my perspective. Diversity is invisible and visible differences that make a human complete. Okay? So visually, you see a good-looking guy up here with a bow tie on. That is my brown, good-looking bow tie wearing guy. That's my visible difference. Invisible, you may not know that I'm one of 13 kids. I can habla español and falo Portuguese. I'm afraid of heights, but I love to travel in planes. I want people to understand when you say the word diversity, of course, see, in Canada, it's a visible diversity, right? We see that in the government categories in here. However, diversity is so much more than what you see on the outside. It's also the things you cannot see. Your ideas, your beliefs, your sexual orientation, your faith, your experiences, etc. Make sense? Mm-hmm. All right, yeah, we're in class this morning. Make sense? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Let's go to this next word. Okay, thank you. Let's go to this next word, inclusion. Inclusion, we throw this word a lot. Like if you don't say this in a sentence, you may not be cool anymore. Like that's how much inclusion has become a buzzword, right? Like if you don't put that in your speech, you're not gonna be cool. So inclusion, what is inclusion? Inclusion to me is very simple. Inclusion is creating a space, a climate, a culture where we behave in a way that we respect all these visible and invisible differences. Okay? Now, I wouldn't say you just stop at respect. Inclusivity is also striving for individual differences to be valued, championed, seen, and heard. What we see in research is that people want to be seen and heard. Now, Dr. Jenkins, why did you put heard in your definition? Well, my friends, how many of you all know you can be doing a lot of talking, but that does not mean anyone is listening? Trust me, I'm married. No, my wife is not here. You better not be recording that. No, so I'm just kidding. That's a joke. But the interesting thing is that that's what inclusivity is striving for. That's what inclusivity is striving for. It's creating those cultures and climate. We can't talk about true inclusion without talking about equity, because that's that other E. Now, I will tell you what's fascinating about this is that it's been very challenging in Rotary International to look at these two E's together, equity versus equality. So one of our colleagues put out an article about why we should strive for equity. The Rotary world responded in a very interesting way. Was why are we going for equity? What does that mean? It's all about equal. We should treat everyone the same. And some individuals may believe that in here. I'm not telling you I agree or disagree with that. I'm just stating what we heard in the research. But it is a difference between equity and equality. And I work with Fortune 500 senior leaders every day. And I tell you, they still struggle with. So the difference between equity and equality is that they really are challenged with this term, equity and equality. It becomes such a debate, especially in the Rotary world. I usually see this debate in business But of course, we have a lot of business leaders in Rotary, and they are really challenged with this. And so I used to bring my book, or I used to talk about articles, and I used to send it to the board, not our Rotary board, talking about some clients of ours. I used to send our pre-read materials before we come in and do the board training. Well, I quickly realized that the board of directors do not pre-read anything. So what I stopped doing was I stopped bringing my articles, I stopped sending the books, and I just do something very simple. I just bring my shoe. It's the easiest way that I can explain the difference. Now, I wear a size 10.5 brown shoe. This is my spiffy shoe. I love this shoe. I wear it a lot. I'm so blessed that I can still fit it after my pandemic wear. And so I wear the shoe around a lot. And here's the difference. You know, when it comes to equity and equality, well, equality, when it comes to a shoe perspective, you get a shoe, you get a shoe. It's like Oprah, everybody gets shoes. Okay? That's equality. But equity is giving everyone in here a shoe that fits them.
Cool.
And I have to think about that. Matter of fact, let's see here. Question. Hey, how are you? In the brown jacket? Yes. What's your name?
Marianne.
Marianne. How you doing, Miss Marianne?
Fine.
Marianne, if you don't mind, what is your favorite color shoe to wear?
Black.
Black. I like brown. We're in the B family. Nice. If you don't mind sharing, what is your shoe size?
8.5.
8.5. Marianne, correct? Marianne, how will you feel if I asked you to show up to Rotary every day with my size, good looking, spiffy, 10.5 brown shoe on every day at Rotary?
That would be tough, yes.
Marianne, did y'all hear Marianne? No. She said, I asked her how would she feel. She said that would be tough. She said that will be tough. But what did Marianne not say? She did not say, Dr. Jenkins, I don't care about your ugly brown shoe. It's not my size and I'm not showing up. She did not say that. She said it would be tough. My point here, my friends, is that we still have people showing up to our clubs every day with shoes that are given to them that's not their size, and it's tough, and they still show up. Some have been showing up so long that they forgot how uncomfortable it feels. And they expect for the next XYZ person to get over the toughness because they did. Here's the point, my friends. If we strive for equitable treatment, equity is that it's not a handout, it's a hand in. Equity is removing the structural barriers to have access to the opportunity. That's what we're talking about here, my friends. Does that make sense? I guarantee you, this is what we do as leaders. We want to give everyone the same shoe. Because as a leader, it's like, don't complain. You got the same shoe. And I picked it. But I guarantee you, if I go one person by one person, and you ask, what will you like in your preference? They will feel far greater and better. But as a leader, as humans, oh no, we don't have the time to do that. We don't want to get beyond the stage and get to know every single person. That's not practical, Dr. Jenkins. Or are you telling me equity is not practical? Okay, that's another conversation. We'll come back to that. Let's keep going. So while we're talking about this, in the whole business world, it's so interesting, or even talking to Rotary. I go to Rotary clubs, districts, and zones all around the world. And I hear 3 common cases. The first case, why inclusion is important. I call it the moral case. It's because it's the right thing to do. I hear, how many of you all, no, don't raise your hand, because you may be at a table at someone who may not agree. So some people don't, they say that it's the right thing to do. This is why we're talking about diversity and inclusion. Okay, that's case number 1. Case number 2 is saying that the world is changing. Oh, we got, it's more young people, it's more people who are diverse, so we need to be diverse as well. We heard it in President's message. We should reflect our communities. Okay, that's another case why this is important, why we're talking about it at a conference. But working in leadership and working with a lot of clients, I have met several individuals who don't support the moral case or what I call the social case. How many of you all have met anyone ever who does not support the moral or social case of inclusion? Okay. How many of you all have never met anyone that disagree with that? Okay, this is good. I love this. But let me tell you one case, especially in corporate America, that has been really able to stick like glue. And that's called the business case. The business case says, if you get inclusion right, you will make money or save more money. And you would be so surprised how many contracts we get after that case have been valid. Because my friend, today and tomorrow is very diverse. And if your organization is not only attracting diversity, because that's one piece, everybody like to talk about that, but I'm glad that I think President talked about engaging diversity or engaging humans and people to retain them. Diversity of thought, your innovation will not happen. The new markets will not happen. So it's been this turmoil into this inclusion case of why we're talking about this in corporate America and all around the world. And I think it's a strong case for us as Rotarians. And the case says it's very simple. If we get this right as Rotarians, it will make us bigger, better, and stronger together. Okay? This is a case where everybody is included and everybody wins, including straight white old men. Yeah. I know, straight white old men, you want to clap, go ahead and clap for yourselves, you and this as well. Okay, you're going to be a little embarrassed, okay, it's okay. But this is the thing, when we talk about true inclusion, everybody matters, everybody wins. And we have to make sure that we are articulating that. Because every time I come into several conversations, at table discussions, after hours, in the communities, in businesses, it's immediately a shame and blame. It's a us and they. And if we really want to strive for inclusivity, it is a we. But inclusion actually starts with the letter I. So we have to see how are we showing up in this space. That makes sense? Okay, do it make sense to you all in the back? All right, want to make sure. I want to make sure. I'm a teacher, so you stop me and be like, Dr. Jenkins, show me your citations. I will. So here's the points, here's the stats, just in case you don't believe my philosophy. The stats shows us in the workforce, everything gets better, okay? But one of the things I want to narrow in is that what we don't talk about, because I think it's very, very transferable to Rotary, is this number one point around discretionary effort. Discretionary effort, my friends, this is fascinating to me in workplace cultures. The discretionary effort, it shows in our research, when someone feels valued, they feel a connection, a sense of belonging, they're more likely to give you their discretionary effort. Dr. Jenkins, what are you talking about? Well, when it's 5 o'clock and it's time to clock out, if I don't care about my organization, I'm clocking out at 4:58. But if I'm so passionate, I feel connected, I may actually work until 5:30 or 5:45. Okay, that's one example. Let's make it to Rotary. If we're having an event, if I'm connected to Rotary, and I feel like I belong, first off, now the event is over. Everyone need to clear up and pick up the tables and the chairs. Well, because I feel connected to Rotary, I feel like I belong, and I agree and I align with the culture, I'm going to stay beyond measure to give my discretionary effort. Now, if I don't feel any connection, I can't wait until the event is over. I'm not coming to the reception, and you may see me at the next club meeting. Do you understand what I'm saying? You don't? Okay, I had two individuals shake their head no. So I'm the pastor, so I'm going to go a little bit longer. So what I'm going to make it a little bit more practical. If I don't see myself in Rotary, I have the option. I have the epiphany, the conscious, to make the choice. Is this for me? Outside of my other brother here, I don't think there's any other black guys in this room. I have the choice to say, I don't feel connected because I don't see myself. Now, I want you to make that applicable to you. Do you see yourself in Rotary? Some individuals in this room would say, Dr. Jenkins, I never had to think about that. Some individuals in this room would say, Dr. Jenkins, as a female, when I go into the room, that's the first thing I may look for. Or not consciously, but subconsciously. You may not look for it, but you say, wow, I realize I'm the only female in the room. Where it's not Dr. Jenkins giving his perspective, I'm curious. Have any women in the room ever felt that way? Raise your hand. Okay, I just want to make sure that this is not just I'm socializing. This is what research says. So for the two individuals who shook their head, I want to make sure this is your understanding. This is a conscious effort that some of us are taking in the room when you don't see yourself in Rotary. So here's the next point I want to make. How many of you in the room have never had to think about that? That's never been a thought. Raise your hand. Do I see myself in Rotary? Okay, I want you to check this out. This is a social experiment. Because these things are real human behaviors. So here's the catch. Because I have a conscious of seeing or not seeing myself, I have a choice to say, is this for me? Do I feel my culture in Rotary? Or do I want to make Rotary better? Making Rotary better is energy and effort that's discretionary. Are you following me? Yeah, okay, I'm looking at two people who shook their head no, so I'm keep looking at y'all. Okay? I have a choice. As being in the Rotary Club of Fayetteville, 225 members, I brought the average age down to 72, joining at the average at 23. Now it was age, and it was no black people in the club. I had a choice to say, do I want to stay here? Or do I want to go somewhere else where all these other clubs who I know culturally, that they may be able to understand me quicker than Rotary. So that whole choice that I made to stay in Rotary was my discretionary effort. Now, it's also have energy that comes with that. So I like to give you that lens because sometimes, because of privilege, you probably have never had to experience that. And now that's just one lens. It's a lot of other lenses we can go, right? So I just want you to understand that research shows that if we get this right in Rotary, we can make everything better. The next thing is why Rotary? Why are we talking about this in Rotary, Dr. Todd? Core value is diversity. Core value of Rotary, we are very diverse as an international organization. We're actually very diverse in this room. It's beautiful. I see all I'm telling you, I travel a lot, and I don't really usually see this. This is beautiful. And when I say see this, is I see the diversities in this room. But if we as an organization can come together to end polio, you don't think that we can't strive for inclusive excellence? I believe in that. Our mission, our motto is service above self. It didn't say service above white people, service above gay people, so service above self. It has no color, no creed, no sexual orientation, no age in any of that motto. And if I really believe that we are serving humanity, that means it's serving everyone. That's big. So I want to tell you, we have the opportunity. We have the opportunity to do this bigger, better, and stronger together. And I want to give you some insight of how we're doing that. Okay? So at Rotary, as you heard from President, he called out 2 dimensions. And I love President. I talk to all the board members a lot, and they know how I am. And I know the truth behind a lot of stuff. And is it the truth? 2 dimensions was called out in President's message. Anybody can recall what were they? What was the diversity dimensions that the President called out that we're focused on?
Women.
Call it out?
Women.
Women, and who else? Young people. Women and young people. Okay? Now, one may ask themselves, I could be a Punjabi American. And they could be like, oh, what, did you laugh? What did you laugh? Oh, you Punjabi?
I am.
Oh, nice. I actually visit Punjab several times. I have 4 turbans.
So hold on. Pakistan or India?
India.
From both sides.
Okay, well, I went to the Sikh temple. We'll talk about that. See? But listen to that response. Because I call out Punjab American, he felt immediately connected. One could argue, when President gave that message, who was he not talking to? I'm not here to say anything. I'm just here to give you observation, because I'm a practical person. Because we don't have too many practical conversations about this. And we like to paint a pretty decoration. We're going to do D&I. But we're still not getting to the solutions. Okay, well, actually, in results, we see that 69% says my biggest challenge is, how do I influence the change in my club? So, Dr. Jenkins, it sounds really good what you're saying. We're all like-minded here at the district government, together again. But when I go back to my club, it's about 5 or 6 that I'm struggling with. How do I, and some of them individuals may be in this room. How do I influence? Don't look at them, keep looking at me. Look at me, okay? How do I influence the change? So let me tell you really quickly how you could do that. Of course, we have a statement, but we also have some other things that we did as I get ready to wrap up to get the Q&A. Is that, of course, President said we have more flexible club structures. What we're seeing in research is that if you don't get your hands around this inclusion word, when people come, especially young people, they go create their own clubs. We have seen more clubs get created in the last 3 years than ever before. And when we look at the survey results of why you created a club, it's because they didn't feel connected to the traditional club in their city. And they felt like this traditional club was not willing to be flexible and willing to try new ideas. The other thing is no age limit. I'm not going to talk about age limit. I do want to talk about this adult harassment policy. So we lifted up adult harassment. I know some of you all will be like, what? We got to have an adult harassment policy in Rotary? Yes. You will be surprised, my friends, and it's disheartening, when we were able to lift up this policy, how many reports we received around the world of your own members feeling harassed by each other. And this is happening in club cultures. We come here to serve, have goodwill and fellowship, and we are being harassed to come together to serve. What's also fascinating about this adult harassment policy and what we have seen in research, sometimes it's not the members, it's the leadership. And we have to create these processes because sometimes it's the DG or the zone director. So no one could go, because this is what we do as come on, I don't know how much you know about Rotary, but if you're a president, you have a problem, who are you going to go talk to? Who are you going to escalate it to? AG, your assistant governor. Oh, okay, well the AG, they can't keep stuff to themselves. I'm telling you what I know in Rotary. So they're going to tell the DG. And the DG keeps stuff to themselves. They do. I know. I'm talking about Rudy. He's my friend. The DGs keep stuff to themselves. They're not going to go call their zone coordinator or director and tell them about, no, we're not going to bother them with it. We're not going to make our district look bad. We're going to just go handle that. So what we have started to see in these adult harassment policies, the reports, some of our DGs are the reason why these reports are coming through. And they are a part of the accusation, alleged. So we have actually seen that this has helped us out, but it's still these common questions. Dr. Jenkins, I live in this certain type of community. How do we attract these individuals? Well, it's very simple, because this is always the same question. How do we attract? How do we recruit? How do we recruit? How do we recruit? And it's very simple to me. Before you go and recruit, seek to relate. Before you recruit, seek to relate. What do you mean, Dr. Jenkins? It's hard to recruit people you don't know. Well, it's hard to retain people you don't know. Don't lead with Rotary, lead with passions. What are you passionate about? I was talking to Rob, past president. I had a good breakfast this morning. I learned a lot about his passions. Now, if I really wanted to engage him in Rotary, even though he's a long-time, great serving Rotarian, I know how to connect him because he's in consulting, because his background is financial services and healthcare. Wow, in Rotary, we have this type of this type of committee. This is how you can retain individuals. Lead with passion. I'm helping somebody out in here. And here's the last thing I would say. We already talking about the surveys. The other thing is build relationships. It's very, very powerful and critical. I will also tell you that you can't expect for people just to show up and you say the word inclusion and you expect for them to feel it. No, because that's the first question. No, we're very, especially if you're talking to someone who's from I get this a lot. I'm so sorry. I just tell you all this to be truthful. When they see you are from a different persuasion or a different dimension of diversity, the first thing they want to tell you, because they don't know what else to say, is, hey, we believe in diversity. Don't do that. I'm helping you. We're friends. Don't do that to people who look different than you. Don't leave that in your elevator. Hey, no, we have 3 other in our club. I'm serious. I'm helping somebody out here. Because how many of you all have heard somebody do that in Rotary? See, I know it. This is the stuff we don't talk about. I'm helping you out. We're trying to make us better. Don't do that. You heard it from Dr. Jenkins. Don't do it. The other thing is address inappropriate behaviors. We all make mistakes. We all, it's okay. We were talking about this at dinner last night. Is it okay to ask somebody their ethnicity? Yeah, it depends. It depends on the person. You can't put everybody in the box. Some people will like for you to ask them, some people don't. But can you lend grace and space in your approach? Can you be curious with compassion? That's what we can lean into. So you can do those things, but address that. Help each other out. Let's stop talking behind each other's backs. Like, Rudy said this. No, help Rudy out. Say, Rudy, you should probably think about it this way. Okay, we can do that as friends. I'm from the South. My grandma says, when you know better, you
Do better.
This is the southern corner over here. Y'all don't know that here in Canada. When you know better, you do better. So now you all know better, okay? So when you go back to your clubs, ensure that you involve everyone, okay? Make sure that even the naysayers, they have a perspective. And I have always understood that when you get to hear their story, you potentially can see how they are showing up the way they are. It's just different perspectives. But I would tell you, don't focus on the naysayers. Focus on the hefty middle. Motivate the middle of your club, because that is the culture. Now, you do have some gatekeepers. We know those Rotarians, that they ain't going nowhere until they go somewhere. Okay? We know they're going to be there, and we love them too. I love you. I know some of y'all in the room. I love you. But you can't focus on them. You gotta focus on that, focus on the belly. I know, I need to focus on mine. Focus on the belly, okay? That's where all the love is happening. That's where the change is happening. That's where your ambassadors are happening. So make sure you involve them in your committee strategy. Make sense? The next thing I would say is, because, how many we got good data people in here? Anybody love data? Okay, let me, she's like, I love data. Let me tell, how many individuals work in business? Business in here? Oh, see, we got a lot of business folks in here. Okay, let me see the flip up. Anybody work in nonprofits, education? Okay, okay, great. So here's the thing about our business folks. Business, they like to say, well, how do we know if we accomplished this? We get this question a lot. How do you know that this is actually doing anything? So make sure your stuff is measurable. So as we wrap up, I want to hear your questions. As I leave you with the the 4 L's, there's 3 here. Listen, learn, and lead. Keep listening to each other. Open hearts, open mind. Okay, but we have to learn, unlearn, or relearn. But you can't just continue to sit there in Rotary for the next 10 or 50 years and keep listening and learning and not doing nothing. You can lead in your club, but it starts before the club, my friends. You actually bring yourself to the club. The club is just a space. So what does that mean, Dr. Jenkins? You actually got to start at home. Uh-oh. How dare you tell me what to do in my house? You got to start at home. Homes are changing today. Why? Because of your kids and grandkids. They're changing hearts and minds. So we see that in research. Because you never know who little Johnny go bring home. You think you know, but you have no idea. Okay, so think about that. You can't do any of these L's without the greatest L, which is love. But I believe if we take action and if we go for it, we will make progress. And as JJ says, we can live in a world where we can imagine Rotary. What if we can imagine a world? Imagine a club. Imagine a human being that we can literally set these differences aside and we can do the work that we were all called to do. It starts with you. So my friends, thank you so much.